speak with you. Yeah, of course, we started, actually, I'm joking a little bit, we started with Evharistopoli here from our very, that's was their net, Herr Čurčić. So with a little bit of jokes, I'm more than happy that in a good atmosphere, we can finally greet Professor Spiros or Spiridon Лицас, who is our guest today. As you all know, we have announced that. And really, and honestly, I have to thank very much to His Excellency Dušan Spasović, our great friend, actually a great friend of Professor as well, who recommended and made this contact. And as you all know, Mr. Spasović until recently was for some time ambassador of Serbia to Republic of Greece, actually. So I'm really glad that today we are realizing this, because as we announced it, this will be the beginning of one, I hope, very full and useful and a nice day, because another activity that we have at 6 p.m. will be at the Faculty of Security of the University of Belgrade, with whom we are, and I'm really happy to say that, realizing together this very important event. So today, Professor will, in a little bit different shape, present his speech actually to the students. So we organized today's more, if I could say, academic and so on. And today we will have the forum that will be adapted to the students of Faculty of Security there. So this is his first visit to Belgrade and Serbia. Hopefully beginning of the beautiful friendship.
Not to Serbia.
Not to Serbia, just to Belgrade, you know. Yeah, okay. And without further ado, I will just briefly introduce you with his with small part of what he's been doing. He's really doing very serious research now, editing for Routledge, I think one very important collection, but it's really perceived as one of the best experts for so-called Eastern Mediterranean, we could say, which is really gathering several of the most hottest point, if I could say, in the world, spreading from the Cyprus up to Middle East and so on. And of course, I'm happy that I could also greet with us Her Excellency as well, Ambassador Marina Jovićević, who is our friend, of course, but beside that, former ambassador to several countries, including the Brussels recently, and now she's the head of the Diplomacy Academy of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Serbia, and thank you very much for this honor for being with us. So Professor Spiridoon Лицас is a professor of international relations theory at the University of Macedonia in Thessalonica. He has taught international relations as a visiting professor at the University of Daramу in UK, of course, University of Grenobleu in France, and Zaјed Military Academy in United Emirates. In 2015, he was the Greek exchange scholar of the US Department of State program in US foreign policy. He is the editor of Routledge book series International Relations in the Gulf region and the Eastern Mediterranean. His most recent monograph is Smart Instead of Small in International Relations Theory, the case of the United Arab Emirates, and he is really perceived in the Western world as one of the biggest experts for Emirates generally. He holds a PhD from the University of Durham, UK. And I also have to mention that he's not only a theoretician, he also has, if I could say, substantive and very important knowledge from within, or I could say that he spent some time as a part of the state administration in a Ministry of Culture in Greece. Thank you very much for being with us. It's really great honor. Please, Spiros, the floor is yours. And of course, after that, we will have Q&A and possibility to debate about so many interesting stuff, because you will see not only local press, but he's dealing with the influence of the big powers, including Russia, in this region, which is becoming more and more interesting.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you all very much. Thank you for being here. This cloudy, let's say, morning. The weather, personally, I really like that because I've spent so many years in Britain. I would like to thank His Excellency Dusan Spasajevic for his service as an ambassador of Serbia in Greece. I'm saying that as a person that had the honor of following his career in Greece for a long period of time. And I would like to mention and underline at the same time that according to me, this is the proper way of a diplomat dealing with the country that he or she serves, understands the sentiments, the core of the state, and write books, because this is what we do. So the ambassador is the bridge between diplomacy and academia as well. I would also like to thank Your Excellency for many reasons, plus, and this is extremely important, for maintaining the gender balance here, since the fact that you are the only lady in the audience. Yeah, this is really important. So today, typically Balkan, let's say. Okay, all right. So today we are going to.
The women are dominating.
Yeah, and this is a good thing, I believe, where women, dominate.
Joking.
So today we are going to discuss. I'm going to give food for thought, and then I will be more than willing to have, a Q&A, a thorough Q&A. And let's, throw some international politics as well. However, the first leg of my analysis is going to be mainly theoretical, because for me, combining theory with empiricism, this is a proper way of dealing and approaching international relations in general. So I'm going to discuss about the Eastern Mediterranean in the era of core systemic challenges, and I would also like to add the following, that I'm just opening the circle of conversation here. What I'm going to say is not written on stone, so please, if you disagree with me, I will be more than willing to hear your disagreements and and discuss on your views as well. This is the proper academic way to deal with things. So on the night of 31st December 2019, I was waiting for my wife and daughter to get prepared in order to go to a New Year's Eve night party. So, during that time, I was just scrolling around in the web, and I saw a new news flash saying that, some really weird cases of pneumonia appeared in a city I've never heard before, Wuhan, in China, in the fish market. And to be honest, I was a little bit preoccupied. However, I didn't want to ruin the night to my family, because exactly the same thing happened in 2009. 2010 was the beginning of the Greek economic crisis, because everybody was so happy, and I was a bit disappointed, saying that things are not going very well in economy. So my friends sometimes they call me Kalhas. Kalhas is the ancient omen teller, the one who said that Troy is going to fall in the hands of the Greeks. So I don't want to be the bearer of the bad news. So what's the meaning of that? What's the meaning of COVID-19 in international politics? I portray this specific pandemic as a black swan phenomenon. I believe that we all know this specific theory of Taleb, black swan phenomenon. So, the appearance of this pandemic contributed to the change of the balance of power at an international level. And this, I know that we have many lawyers in the audience. We could also discuss about, the great changes that occurred in civil liberties, or in the way that a state guarded its sovereign rights, and so on, and so on, so forth. However, in international politics, COVID-19 was the black swan. The black swan appeared in the threshold of our system, changing everything. And why am I saying this? For example, it exposed the weaknesses of specific actors that before COVID-19, they aspired, some of them in a quite realistic way, some of them, in a quite theoretical way, aspired to sit with the rest of the, big actors, China, Russia, and the United States of America, in the same table. And I'm discussing about India on the one hand and Turkey on the other hand. If we remember how these two states dealt with, the COVID-19 pandemic, then we will be extremely surprised due to the emphatic appearance of systemic weaknesses of these two states in dealing with the pandemic itself, compared with some other states that before COVID-19 they had been regarded as small actors, small elements in international, in the international environment. I'm going to compare and contrast, for example, the fact that India, had shortage in oxygen in, the majority of public hospitals. And the United Arab Emirates gave a great help, a great assistance in that, in a kind of medical aid in order for India to be able to meet the challenges and to tackle the problem itself. On the other hand, Turkey, another country that, theoretically wanted to sit, the same table with so-called big boys, for almost than a year was trying to tackle publicly the issue by distributing the well-known lemon cologne to the citizens in order to disinfect their hands, and having handshakes. So COVID-19 brought the world, in a sense, into what real politics means about regarding, the emergence of might, ability, and willingness to act proactively and at the same time to act in a leading way in the international environment. Some states managed to do that. So, for example, both the United States of America and China, and we are going to discuss a bit more about that later on, they managed to ride the wave that COVID-19 brought. Some other states, they were not able to prove that their aspirations were as realistic as they should have been. India and Turkey in particular. Second, during almost the same period of time, the Russo-Ukrainian War. The Russian-Ukrainian War begins, 2015. Some analysts, they put the beginning of the class, at the end, during the end of the Cold War era. This is where, the basis of this kind of a conflict had been laid. However, let's follow the normative way. The beginning of the Russian-Ukrainian war during the COVID-19 pandemic, a little bit after the American evacuation from Afghanistan. This is extremely important regarding the timing of that specific period. This is not a black swan phenomenon, right? Let me get that straight. However, this is, and this can also be labeled as a mega conflict, as a mega war for both participants, mainly due to the unprecedented volumes of war attrition that still penetrate and affect the level of power that especially Russia deals with it. Why am I regarding this Russo-Ukrainian conflict as extremely important for the emergence of the new polarity in the international system, and also for the Eastern Mediterranean as well? At the beginning of the war, Russia was undisputably one of the three great powers, and the systemic structure was multipolar. The fact that, on the one hand, the military mobilization, the Russian military mobilization, was so problematic, let's put it, in a diplomatic way. I'm opening a parenthesis here, saying that, I represent myself as an academic here, all right, and I'm not representing the Greek state, so I'm closing the parenthesis. So, it was very problematic, and the most, let's say, emphatic sign of this problematic military mobilization was the so-called Wagner mutiny in 2023. I mean, this exposed the internal weaknesses that penetrated the structure of the Russian army. Third, and this is extremely important, the fact that Russia did not manage up until this specific period of time to fulfill its main strategic goals. The main strategic goal of Russia would like, and this is something that we can discuss, however, I have written an article on this specific strategic goal, was not Kiev itself. The strategic goal was to create a kind of a landlocked status for Ukraine, so isolate Ukraine from the Black Sea, and at the same time to connect, to build, to fabricate a safe corridor from the eastern Ukrainian provinces that are under Russian control down to Transnistria. And why is that? Because, this is extremely important for Russia in order to be able to create a kind of a wall between itself and NATO on the one hand, and on the other hand, to be able to create a kind of a thorn by the side of Romania, which during the last decades holds, an upgraded role in a North Atlantic strategic structure in general. So, this military goal had not been achieved, and this is the third year of the war itself. So, for a state with the status of Russia, this takes too long, and personally, I believe that Russia will not be able to fulfill this specific strategic goal. Fourth, and this is extremely important, before the beginning of the war, the so-called Nordic enlargement was just, a theory that nobody was discussing about. I mean, nobody wanted to hear about the prospect of Finland and Sweden being members of NATO, not even Finnish or Swedish. During the war, the discussion began, and finally today, the Nordic enlargement had been fulfilled, creating, a status quo that is cannot change at the moment. Personally, I don't believe that this can change in general, and this had been created due to the way that Russia dealt with the war against Ukraine. Fifth, last but not least, Russia lost Europe as one of its main clients regarding energy market, and at the moment Russia has one main official client, China. So in reality, this kind of a war works in favor of Chinese economy, because we all know the level of the energy needs that China holds in general. So let me give you some numbers here, because sometimes we should make use of numbers as well. Annual inflation in Russia, which was around 9% before the war, has been hovering at 11 up to 17.8 in the first year of the conflict. And after the period of the double-digit inflation, it fell as low as 2 or 3% due to the base effect and interest rate hikes by the country's central bank. In simple English, this means that Russia, the Russian state, spends a lot of money in order to stabilize economy, and this creates, this just gives an opportunity to stagnant inflation or stagnated inflation, to appear some years, after today. So this is just a problem in the making in general, and Russian economy, is as unstable or more unstable than ever before. And some other numbers. I do not want to bore you with them. All right, the central bank lowered its interest rate from 20% to 7.5, and so on. So however, for me, the most important fact is that the country's credit default it was around 200, skyrocketed to about 13,800 during the first year of the war. So a recent US study coming from Pentagon says that according to Japanese public broadcaster NHK, the cost of the war up until today reaches to the astronomical number of 211 billion so far. All right, I'm not saying that Ukraine has not been severely hit by the war itself, Ukrainian economy, Ukrainian society, and so on and so forth. However, Ukraine never wanted, and I don't believe that is either able or willing to claim that is a great power in the international system, unlike Russia, that is always discussing about its status as one of the three main actors internationally. Okay, I argue that due to the war itself, this is an extremely important dimension that hurt quite extensively the Russian status itself. And, we also have some of the sanctions that the Western world in general, not just the European Union, imposed on Russia, making the problem even greater than it used to be. The third mega conflict is the so-called Gaza war. Some analysts discuss about the second Nagorno-Karabakh conflict that affected the status quo in the greater Caucasus area. However, it's not as important as the Gaza war that occurred, as we all know, after the 7/10, the terrorist attack of Hamas. Why is this important? For the following reasons. First of all, for the first time, an unprecedented wave of pro-Palestinian support spreads all over the Western world. This is the first time that something like that ever occurs. Western citizens, they disregard the fact that Hamas is a member of Muslim Brotherhood. We all know, or if some of you don't know, there is a direct connection between modern jihadism, in the 21st century, with the teachings of, let's say, Qudism, all right, a prominent figure of Muslim Brotherhood, Sayyid Qutb. And this is, extremely important because it creates many issues, many problems in Western societies in general. Who would have thought, for example, that Columbia University was to see scenes like, tents in one of the glorious campuses of that specific university with, flags of, Palestinian cause. And, students that perhaps, in 10 years from now, they are going to lead the world, spreading the slogan, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which in reality means that there is not going to be an Israel. So, in reality, this means that, these students, they just promote the Iranian slogan, all right, that, that is written on Iranian constitution, that, Israel must be erased from a global map. This is, we are living in peculiar times. The total war, because this is what a Gaza war really is, we have the Israeli Defense Forces operating in Gaza, and they bring the military operations extremely close to Egypt. As we all know, Egypt is a main actor, not just for the Middle East, but also for the Arab world in general. Okay, let me. Sorry about that. For the Arab world, and this is the first time that something like that happens, in such a great scale since the Suez Canal crisis. So, this reveals a problem on the making that perhaps will destabilize the existing balance of power between two states that learned how to cooperate, Egypt and Israel as well. And last but not least, and for me this is the most important of all, 710 brought, or let me rephrase that, gave a severe blow to important, extremely important developments that paved the way between Israelis on the one side and Arabs on the other side to come closer, such as the Abraham Accords. For me, that was an extremely important development. It gave a severe blow. Let's hope, that this is not going to be the end. And once again, these states, the so-called clever states of the Gulf, will be able to come closer to Israel once again, because this is extremely important for the balance of power in the wider area. I'm not discussing about that as a main reason for the importance of the Gaza war, but as a main result out of the terrorist attack that occurred in 7 October 2023. And for me, this is equally important. The Middle East, after the emergence of Hamas attack, becomes a domain of direct antagonism, in most of the times, in a quite violent way, let's say, between Israel on the one hand and the Sea Crescent on the other. We are seeing that Iran is not directly involved in the war itself. However, Iran's proxies are playing a great role in destabilizing the balance of the region, in a wider scale. I don't believe that I have to mention to all of you the destabilizing role of the Houthis in relation with, for example, global naval trade. All right, and the obstacles that they put, in free navigation of trade vessels through Red Sea, which is extremely important for Western economy. The one thing that every Greek says is the one thing that I have heard for so many Serbs, because I'm always trying to discuss with the driver, in the taxi, or with the person in the hotel that says to me, "Good morning," that the main problem, as in every other part of the world, is the inflation, is that things are becoming so much expensive on a daily basis. The role of the Houthis regarding the free navigation route through the Red Sea plays an important has an important share in this negative result in general. What is happening in the Middle East, and why am I interested in the Middle East? Because the Middle East is a part of the Eastern Mediterranean in general, or let me rephrase that, of the greater Eastern Mediterranean, as things occur at the moment. The first, let's say, shake that occurred, the first destabilizing aura that we all felt was when Barack Obama, the then American president, said the need for American diplomacy to implement the so-called pivot to the Asia Pacific. This had been regarded as, a negative approach for many Arab leaders, because they thought that the United States of America, an extremely important stabilizing factor for a long period of time, especially after the end of the Cold War for the region, was about to leave for good from the Middle East. This gave the opportunity, together with the appearance of the so-called Arab Spring or the Arab War, the Arab winter of discontent, it is, to various Arab elements, to various Arab actors to maintain or to cultivate a connection with Russia or with China as well. As we say, I'm always saying to my students, international relations, as nature as well, abhors vacuum. So, every time that a gap appears, something else is going to fill that gap in ways that perhaps, are not going to be helpful for the balance of power in general, or for the interests of specific states as well. So the Middle East entered a period of destabilizing phase long before the appearance of COVID, long before the Gaza war, or even long before the emergence of the Russian-Ukrainian war. However, this does not change the fact that, you know, the stabilizing process was there, and this adds to the negativity. This adds more to the destabilizing process in general, and, you know, affects the way that these actors interact both with each other and with the rest of the world. In addition, I would like to open a parenthesis here and remind you that the Middle East is extremely important, not just for world naval trade, but also because specific countries in the region, especially Saudi Arabia and UAE, playing a leading role towards the end of the oil era, no matter when, you know, something like that is going to occur, but, you know, they invest a lot of money in science of producing alternative means of energy in general, you know, and establishing, let's say, a kind of alternative forms and means of energy, you know, as well. So, you know, it's not just about politics, it's also about tackling the climate, let's say, crisis that is galloping towards us. And this is also extremely important because, as we all know, the refugee waves that you know, this issue create great problems for specific Euro-Mediterranean states such as Greece, Italy, and even Spain. You know, these waves are going to be larger and larger due to the environmental crisis as years are going to pass by. Anyway, so the United States of America in reality never admitted that, you know, they were willing to abandon the Middle East. Fair enough. However, you know, the messages that they were sending, that we demand from specific Arab actors to meet up the responsibility of being, you know, more autonomous, more independent, and so on and so forth, you know, persuaded some of the states there that this is the so-called end of the American century, together with the evacuation of Kabul, that was extremely traumatic, not just for the people in Afghanistan, but also for the American prestige in general. You know, all this added to the negativity that affects even until today the balance of power in the region. So we have COVID-19, extremely important for socioeconomic reasons. At the same time, we have the exposure of weaknesses of specific actors that they aspire to play a greater role, not just in regional politics, not just in politics in the wider or the greater Eastern Mediterranean, but, you know, at the core of the international system as well. We have the Russia-Ukrainian war that, you know, this creates a kind of a change in the sense of systemic polarity, and we are going to discuss about that later on. We also have the changes in sentiment and in the general political orientation that occurs in the Middle East as well, long before the appearance of the Black Swan phenomenon, or the war between Russia and Ukraine. Let's put it at the beginning of the Arab Spring, so 2011 up until the signing of the Abraham Accords. That was extremely important for the stabilization of the region, in a sense. And later on, we had the 710, which was catalytic, in an emphatic way regarding the regional negativity in general. So we have a region that has the opportunity to redefine itself through security, specific and certain security gaps on the one hand. However, on the other hand, the volatility penetrating the upper levels of the systemic structure gives the opportunity, or gives the chance, to various elements, to various actors in the region to redefine themselves as actors of stability, or messengers of instability in general. Why Russia is so had been affected so much from the Russia-Ukrainian war? Okay, during the 2010s, during this specific decade, the second decade of the 21st century, Russia made, a specific and very impressive change in the way that was seeing itself as a military actor in the Eastern Mediterranean. It declared that it changes its fleet, the Black Sea Fleet, from a green water fleet to a blue water fleet. This sends the message to everyone that Russia is about to return to the Mediterranean, and obviously to the Eastern Mediterranean, trying to reconnect itself with specific factors that it managed to have very close relations during its Soviet past, such as Syria, for example. And at the same time, I'm not going to say that Russia was able or willing to openly challenge the United States of America in the Mediterranean Sea, but it was sending the message that with a blue water fleet, antagonism is back on the water. That was, a change of an era for the regional balance of power. This kind of technological and military transmission from green water to a blue water fleet, has ceased due to the huge economic efforts that Russia has to put up with in order to continue fighting against Ukraine in the eastern provinces. So, as we can all understand, this kind of, let's say, the ability and the willingness of Russia to send the message to various states around the world and to various states in the Eastern Mediterranean and Southeastern Europe that look, I'm back, the Soviet era, my Soviet past is over, however, we are ready to make a new beginning, has vanished due to this specific military decision to be implicated into a long war with Ukraine that nobody from the Russian side, not from the Western side, was willing to think that Ukrainians we're not sitting ducks, and we're not Georgians. Let's say, for example, I would like to remind you the way that the Russian-Georgian conflict in South Ossetia had been developed, and the fact that Russian armored vehicles reached 80 kilometers outside of Tbilisi, up until the point where Georgia, decided to declare a truce towards Russia. Ukraine was not, and that was extremely obvious for us that we were studying this specific area, that Ukraine was not a sitting duck waiting for Russia to impose itself on the neighbor state in general. So I don't know if I have given you the seed of the doubt regarding the change of systemic structure by now. However, before all this phenomenon, everybody accepted the fact that since 9/11, the international structure moved from the unipolar moment, not the unipolar era, but the unipolar moment that the United States of America had between the end of the Cold War up until 9/11 ended, and new actors appeared on the table. This again gives a tremendous push, let's say, a systemic, the systemic top, creating a so-called new structure that I have labeled that, and this is something that we can discuss. I'm more than willing to discuss that with you, bipolar multilateralism. So, I'm going to explain a bit about this. Bipolar multilateralism means that we have two main poles. We have the pole of the free world. The United States, obviously, is at the top. And the other pole has as its main power China. This must not be seen as a repetition of the Cold War era, mainly due to the fact that China is not willing, is neither willing nor able to antagonize the United States of America culturally or ideologically. And Chinese, they don't want to go to this specific level. Remember that, one of the main, domains of antagonism between the United States of America and USSR during the Cold War was about, on the one hand, the American dream, and on the other hand, about the socialist superhuman citizen. All right, extremely two different ideological poles, two different worlds that shaped in reality the world for around 50 years. This new bipolar system is based on multilateralism. The meaning of that is the following: the top has to be able and willing to cooperate, especially with the rest of the important key elements of the pole itself, mainly due to the fact that these two poles have more than one nuclear power on its scale. So, for example, China is not going to be, a primus solus actor like the Soviet Union used to be during the Cold War. It has to be able and willing, it has to develop those skills to negotiate with Russia regarding various, aspects of international arena in general. This also refers to the United States of America, but let's admit that that the United States of America, it's much more skilled, let's say, in order to develop a more, diplomatic way in dealing with its own allies in the form of the well-known primus inter pares way of approach. So, we have this challenge for the two, let's say, not superpowers, but great powers, all right? And this obviously offers a greater independence in both decision-making and political acting for the key partners of, these two poles. So, I also have to add that this multilateral dimension seems not to be a concise decision of these two great powers, but, a development that they have to learn how to deal with it. However, this limits their level of uncompromising and open, way of dealing with their foreign policies in general. So we have bipolar multilateralism due to the fact that the key partners they have a greater share of autonomy in the decision-making process. This adds to the political volatility in various regions around the world. One of the main regions that this kind of volatility occurs, and we can see that at the moment, is the greater Eastern Mediterranean. Why is that? Because in the Eastern Mediterranean, both Russia and China seem to have, aspirations in expanding their influence. At the same time, the United States of America obviously sees the region, as one of its prime zones of interest, both politically, militarily, and economically as well. Plus, and this is extremely important, we also have key partners in the region with, some may say, disputed political identity. Some others, perhaps they deny that, with a profound revisionist agenda, such as, for example, Turkey, questioning the existing balance of power in the greater Eastern Mediterranean. So we have so many aspirations in a region that even before COVID-19, absorbs a great deal of negativity in general. So, how much time? Do I still have? Okay.
A couple minutes. I'm joking.
Okay. Okay. So no, I will be able to finish on time. So, what's the greatest challenge that occurs for those elements that are not ready to read the cards carefully? It's, as I call it, the positioning challenge. This bipolar multilateralism, as the Cold War bipolarity, even before, does not accept the role of the so-called bridge states. The non-alignment movement, I'm discussing that, in a country that played, a great role in the non-aligned movement during the Cold War era, does not work in general, in bipolarity structure. Okay, and perhaps we have seen how this worked for Cyprus, another important actor of non-aligned movements, for the old Yugoslavia, obviously, and for India as well. I'm opening parentheses here. I still remember that I participated in a conference in Britain, and we were discussing with an Indian academic, and I was saying to him after the COVID-19, and I said to him, all right, what's going on with India at the moment? And he said to me, all right, the bad thing about how you people are dealing us is the following, that you ask so many more things that we are able and willing to give to the international balance of power. That was, extremely important for me, because, before the emergence of COVID-19, I strongly believed in, the role, the strategic importance of India. Nowadays, I'm not sure that India would like even to counterbalance China, in its region. I'm not so sure about that anymore. So, no bridge states in bipolar multilateralism, not for any other reason, but because the structure is not willing to accept at the same, dimension, states that they have, a much freer role in dealing with international politics on the one hand, and non-aligned state actors on the other hand. And this, is extremely important for key states such as Turkey and the way that it sees itself in the new era in general. If Turkey or if other key state actors are not willing to read the cards properly, then the effect that the balance of power will receive is going to be, even much more negative than it is nowadays. So, bipolar multilateralism, black swan phenomenon, two mega war issues. I would like to close my analysis and give the floor to you, with Greek-Serbian relations, obviously. Okay, let's speak a bit about, our region, about the Balkans. We are both traditional allies. I would like to clarify that I don't believe, in internal law, in alliances. I'm always saying to my students that an alliance is a marriage of convenience. However, we, both states, managed to reaffirm and to preserve our, kind of cordial relations, even during times where we were not allies. And this is extremely important, and this shows something regarding the common way or common aspects of how we are seeing international politics and how we are seeing our role in this extremely volatile region as well. So, and again, this is my personal approach. I strongly believe that we should work more closely together in order to tackle any kind of form of maximalism in Southeastern Europe. There is maximalism in national agendas of more than one neighbors that we have in our region. I can see some people are smiling, perhaps, they can understand which these states are. Plus, and I differentiate my approach, we also have, the duty to meet and reduce the level of revisionism. Maximalism is something different than revisionism, and the revisionist state in our region is Turkey. We can both work together. Greece, offers the strategic depth to Serbia, not to be a landlocked state towards the Aegean Sea. And for us, for Greece, Serbia, is an extremely important actor and, a historical friend, and we can maintain this kind of a connection first and foremost through academia. I strongly believe in academic diplomacy, and I give a big shout out to those of you here in this room have worked up until now in order for the two states to establish close academic relations. The more the merrier, obviously, and let's continue our good work for the years to come. Thank you very much.
Professor Лицас, thank you very much for so many things that you put on the table.
Yes.
And I'm not only sure if we have 2-3 hours to discuss all of them. I'm joking a little bit. And I'm glad that in the meantime, I didn't mention actually here, just I'd like to present a little bit. Colleagues with us is Professor Slobodan Janković from another institute that is dealing with international relations, who is actually our expert for Middle East. His PhD and very good, very big book here is actually on history of Palestinian and Jewish, let me say, relationship in a way. Actually, it's a big book that is dealing also with the importance of the Jewish community in USA and putting the whole conflict actually within the global sphere, like you very rightly presented that. And also, finally, we mentioned our prodigy, I enjoyed a little bit, Srbulju Pejović, who is finishing his PhD, our orientologist and actually expert for this part of the world. And he is actually historian basically, but we are trying him to overcome that and to be normal in the future. I'm joking a little bit, and he's dealing his basic subject is let me say for PhD of the position of Christian communities in Middle East in the long 19th century, we could say that, but he is following very much contemporary development in Turkey, in Middle East generally, in Iran. He's about to travel, I hope, to Iran now at the beginning of June, and he's also speaking Greek as a Farsi, but Greek as well, as far as I know. So we have very good audience. A couple of our colleagues are here as well, and I will just briefly try to abuse my dominant hegemonic position in this multilateralism here.
The privilege of the chair.
In a way, I'm joking a little bit, but in a way, the two things, I mean, so many things that you mentioned, and we could add, I mean, so many things are really going on there. For example, strong fight of Jordan to preserve its internal stability in these times. I recently heard actually that they had a lot of problems with the refugees from Syria, that it come from time to time to position that they literally openly give the license to the military power to shout at everyone who has Syrian plates, for example. That's incredible things are really going on there. Or let me say, for us, it's getting very interesting how Al Jazeera, who is settled down in Sarajevo here at the Balkans, and which used to be very, how should I say, pro-Western television, is suddenly becoming the leader of course, anti-Israeli position. And I know a lot of journalists who are now, traditionally very pro-Western, who are now forced to lead very strong propaganda. And it's incredible. Recently, I had a chance to listen to two ministers of Israel, actually at CPAC in Budapest, who are complaining and openly speaking that Qatar is leading anti-Semitic force and so on. I mean, how fast actually these things are changing on. But I wanted you to comment on two things that are, I think, very important for us. And after that, I'm excusing to the colleagues. The first one was the role of the China in specific agreement that they facilitated between Iran and Saudi Arabia. In a way, we saw that as a very revolutionary stuff, actually, the day, relationship between Saudis and Iran. That's
Sunni and Shia,
yeah. And they managed that, and this is, I would like you to comment upon that and what's really happening in the field with that, and what are possible consequences for the whole region concerning that. And another one is especially the Greece and the role of Greece. Just basically 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, colleague Stevan Gajic, who is not unfortunately today because of some private obligations, and me had the chance to visit Athens at that time. And we had the chance to speak with Koumoutsakos, with Professor Katrougalos on both of the things. And that was, in a way, the peak of, strong engagement of the Greece. Mm-hmm. That was the time when within 6 months, you had signed at least 10 different agreements, which included also sending the Patriot system to Saudi Arabia, which included 100 of the soldiers of Greece, if they are still present. Then this engagement with France, actually, then it was the agreement with Egypt. In a way, we saw that as some kind of very strong anti-Turkey.
And we participate today in the Aspidas operation in Red Sea,
and so on. So in that sense, I want to just briefly, because of because of microphonia, to briefly to comment upon this kind of, let me say, engagement of Greece as a very active, with Syriza, of course, from their purpose, commented that as very aventuristic even, and so on. I will finish there. So at least to give us on those two things a little bit of commenting. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, these two questions, are, let's say, bullseye, because, as I told you before, first I would like to construct my theoretical argument, and in Q&A we can discuss about international politics in general. Yes, everybody was so impressed, and in reality China, proved actually that is more than capable of playing a greater role in the region, mainly due to the control that has upon Iran nowadays. However, on the other hand, the fact that it persuaded Riyadh to come and discuss with Tehran, that was amazing. Amazing in the sense, of the appearance of, unpredictability in the way that things occur in international politics in general. Who would have thought? I mean, if you would have said to me that Shia and Sunni, the two main champions of both Shia and Sunni world, were to, come and discuss, in the same room when I was, back in my undergrad years, I would have, laughed and say to you, right, this is impossible. All right. However, let's see two main things. The first thing is the fact that many analysts, including me, we support the argument that Hamas hit, implemented 710 in order not for the United States to bring closer Israel and Saudi Arabia. I mean, we all know that there was, a process, a plan that was leading towards that extremely important development. That development would have, even reached higher than Abraham Accords itself. If we go back to the Saudi-Iranian discussion, and if we put aside the impressive, let's say, aura that China managed to spread around, showing to everyone that, look at me, I'm not just an economic actor, protagonist in the Middle East. I can bring two important states together. In reality, nothing happened. And in reality, nothing happened mainly due to the fact that at the moment, Iran is in a great internal volatility phase, different schools of thought, let's put it that way, they are trying to make themselves ready in order to participate from a better positioning, in the new era that Iran is coming after the end of the political circle of Khamenei. Khamenei, is very old. He's 85 years old. And, everything shows that Iran is about to, enter this phase of, political distribution of domestic power, which is extremely important. On the other hand, the Saudis, they are much more stable. They are in the, impressive process of domestic modernization. The crown prince is totally changing the way that Saudi Arabia acts and interacts, both internationally and in the wider region of the Middle East. So, putting aside, the let's say the impressions, the quite astonishing impressions that this, let's say, Chinese initiative brought on the surface. In reality, nothing changed in the balance of power in the region. Why is that? Perhaps due to the 710. Every actor is thinking once again regarding its moves in the big chessboard, and everyone holds its breath, of what the future will bring, and so on and so forth. So in reality, China wanted to send a message. I'm not just, an economic factor. I can also play, a certain specific role in geopolitics. However, in reality, that was a more impressive than truly, political thing to occur. In other words, it did not affect the balance of power in the region. Now, regarding the Greek-Saudis relations,
And generally, Greece.
Yes, yes.
A more active role, if you
Yes,
could say.
whoever has visited the Middle East, the word Greek, Yunan, opens doors. And opens doors, not just, at an elite level, but, in grassroots level as well. For example, you go to a market, you want to buy something, then a guy asks you, in broken English, all right, where are you from? You say to him, I'm Yunan, and, he smiles and he says, all right, come on, friend, here. So, this is our soft power, let's say, advantage, or, our value that we should work more on that in general. And, in order to be more specific, we have established very close relations with Saudis and the Emiratis as well, because together with the Patriot battery system that we have established in Saudi Arabia, which plays an extremely important role, we have also signed a strategic cooperation agreement of mutual aid in case of an attack with United Arab Emirates. This is the first time that Greece signs such diplomatic agreement with a with a state that does not share common frontiers with, and it's not a member of NATO. Why are we doing that? Because we would like to have strategic depth in the Middle East on the one hand, and on the other hand, we are able to evaluate the value of these two states in the balance of power regionally, and at the same time in the modernizing process that these two states have in the Arab world. The Arab world is changing, both politically, economically, but doctrinally as well, due to the role of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. I mean, you can go to Abu Dhabi and Dubai today, and you can see Orthodox Jews, walking around leisurely. Nobody says something, everything is peaceful, and so on and so forth. The only place in the world that you can see that, apart from Israel, is UAE and Brooklyn, perhaps, in New York. This is
Budapest.
and Budapest.
It's becoming very interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
No, 100,000 is still living there. It's
actually a refugee camp that developed later for the Israelis.
It's very. They have a strategic relationship with Orban. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
the speaker.
So, for us, it's extremely important not to present, foreign policy that, it will be monopolized by European Union's necessities. We are a state that is a part of the European Union, but at the same time, we have cultural, historical, political, and economic reasons to be extremely active in the Middle East as well, especially when we are so much welcomed in the region. And at the same time, we can, with our presence, we aspire to counterbalance any kind of maximalism or revisionism, right, coming from, coming from other states as well. Yes. So, for us, this is extremely important. I'm not saying that the Middle East, is our backyard. No way. But, this is a region where we should turn towards, this specific area, and, be able and willing to establish closer connection, since the fact that for specific regions, our Balkan agenda seems to be not as active as it used to be before. So, my suggestion is that, and, this is what, I'm always writing, that we should reinvent the Aristotelian golden line, and we should balance things around. We should, promote our agenda in Brussels. Obviously, we're part of the European Union, but at the same time, Balkans and the Middle East, or the greater Eastern Mediterranean, I aspire to establish this specific term. There are two areas with great strategic interest for us as well. So that's why, we are active towards that specific region.
So just Mike, sorry. Thank you very much. It's really, unfortunately, very small amount of people followed actually within our administration that very engaging and very active politics of recent administration that got very strong support actually at the last elections, and which means that it will continue in that way. And generally with this new turmoil, it's becoming very important, especially for us here. Anyway, so it's the time so I can pass the floor to the colleagues, Rajko Petrović and Srbuljo Pejović for the beginning.
Dear Dear Professor, thank you once again. It was really a pleasure to listen to you. You mentioned a little bit China and Chinese presence and influence in the Eastern Mediterranean region. So can you tell us something a bit more about that? And I have the second question. Maybe it's not related to your main topic, but for me, it seems like very important. Can you tell us how the American-Chinese rivalry and clash in sense of trade and economic relations is affecting Greece? Thank you once again.
Thank you. Let's put it, in a kind of a competition, okay, not rivalry, okay. All right, yeah. Thanks for these two questions. All right, China has appeared as one of the main economic actors in the Eastern Mediterranean. He has a part at the port of Piraeus. The port of Piraeus is one of the main ports in not just in the Eastern Mediterranean, but in the Mediterranean in general. It used to have, control, or at least, control of just, specific areas in ports such as Marseilles, in Barcelona, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure if this still is on the cards for. I believe that there is a Chinese presence in Barcelona at the moment. I'm not so sure about Marseilles. Anyway, I'm aware of the change of the Italian agenda toward Chinese, initiatives. So, they're trying to keep them outside of Italy. So, plus the Confucius Institute, all right, that, China promotes through the teaching of the Chinese language. It starts to build stronger connections with societies, a kind of a public diplomacy or people-to-people connection. Plus, and this is something that, it has a specific, a certain value, let's say, for all of us that we deal with the importance of soft power, Chinese cuisine as well. Or, the Chinatowns that you can find in various capitals in the Mediterranean area in general, the Euro-Mediterranean zone. So China has established itself as an economic element, tries to promote a soft power agenda, a step-by-step is willing to play, a more advanced role regarding geostrategic and geopolitical, realities in the region. But we should understand something. I'm not a senior specialist, all right, but, I have dedicated, some time in trying to understand and decipher the Chinese mentality. China in general, or the Chinese political elite, has a different way of moving throughout time. All right. For the Western world, things must occur, must be developed, in a shorter period of time. Chinese, they have another sense of the time in general. So, they see their foreign policy, let's say, they count their foreign policy not in decades, but perhaps, in centuries and so on and so forth. That's why, every time that you are hearing a Chinese ambassador, he is going to say to you that, especially, in a Greek audience, he's going to say that, I'm very happy, very proud, since the fact that, we are the two, ancient people, in the globe and so on and so forth. So, for them, the timing element plays a different role and counts, in a different way than the Western world has learned up until now. So I would have been much more careful in the way that China develops its diplomatic agenda, because this way of unfolding things is going to take much more time than we, the Westerners, expect. However, sooner or later, is going to be unfolded. This is for sure, since the fact that China is there economically, technologically, 5G and so on and so forth. Especially, in the Gulf, China is big, in technology. The 5G technological network. Huawei is, as big as Apple. So, China is there. Sooner or later, China is going to unfold its own diplomatic agenda, or it's going to reveal itself as one of the main geopolitical elements in the region. Does this mean that the Sino-American connection is going to be much more competitive? Perhaps. Does this mean that China is going to turn against Russia? Perhaps, because Russia, would also like to play, a major role in the region. And, we should remain to see what, happens as long as, we are alive. Because I say to you, the Chinese political elites, they implement policies that they go far beyond the circle of a generation, unlike, Westerners.
Thank you.
1-2. Χαίρετε και χαίρω πολύ και έχει μία ερώτηση άλλο στα αγγλικά. Okay, so my question is actually regarding the refugees, the migrants on this East Mediterranean, Balkan route and so on. First of all, we had an agreement, a Greek-Turkish agreement the last year regarding the liaison officers in Mytilene and in Smyrna. My question is, what produced that change? We remember the Evros River in 2020 before the COVID and so on. So yes, my question is basically this, and also another question I just remembered, if you can answer about Cyprus actually. The Cyprus was active in Lebanon and is active with Lebanon right now regarding the refugees with the support of the European Union. So my question is this a trial actually for the change within the whole European Union for the Syrian refugees, or is it just an isolated incident? Thank you. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
I would like to thank you. First of all, congratulations, on your Greek. Your questions are, very interesting. The Evros incident was, during the first days of the COVID-19. Everyone was so surprised. I believe, that Greece and perhaps the ambassador can also contribute to that. Played, appeared, extremely decisive. Said, that we are not willing to allow to these refugees flows. That Turkey is being paid a great deal of money from the European Union in order to accommodate them in Turkish territory. So the agreement can be rationalized, on the following basis. The two elements, the two actors, the two states, Athens and Ankara, they try to find a way of dealing with our differences that are not based just on history, but are based on the fact that, for example, Turkey promotes a revisionist agenda, in the Aegean Sea, which is extremely important for us, and we must be extremely decisive as well. I repeat that I'm going to give you an answer as an academic. Okay, my approach is the following. So perhaps, you know, what I'm going to say to you is going to be very theoretical, you know, and doesn't have a connection with the truth, and so on and so forth. So my approach shows to this specific direction. The Western world is getting prepared for the end of the Erdogan era. And everybody expects that, you know, a new Kemalism, Imamoglu, you know, and, you know, all these guys are going to re-emerge as, you know, the a new political trend, the normative dimension of Turkish politics, affecting Turkish foreign policy as well. So Athens would like to have, you know, a close connection with these change, let's say, that may occur in Turkey for, you know, many reasons. We do not want tensions. You know, for us it's extremely important to stabilize our economy. I have written in one of my scientific analysis that had been published in an American peer-reviewed journals that Turkey tries to maintain a kind of an economic bleeding regarding Greece. So, you know, we have a continuous and perpetual war that is not violent. However, you know, it's extremely costly for us. So we would like to balance and stabilize things on this direction. However, what I have said to you, perhaps, you know, it's just a wishful thinking, and perhaps Imamoglu is not going to be able to, you know, to succeed Erdogan, and perhaps, you know, another guy from the political Islamic deep state will be able, you know, to continue the presence of political Islam. And by now, political Islam in Turkey controls diplomacy, the military, economy, and so on and so forth. So I'm not optimistic regarding this change of guard in Turkey. You know, for us, Erdogan was a great contributor. He opened the door for Greece, you know, towards Israel. He is the main factor that gave us the opportunity to establish closer connection with Israel with the Marmara crisis. We took that opportunity, and so on and so forth. He gave us the opportunity to establish close connection with Saudi Arabia, with the United Arab Emirates, etc., etc., etc. So, personally, I'm not extremely optimistic regarding the warming of Greek-Turkish relations. However, you know, this is international politics. We must accept that we are not prisoners, but geography plays a great role in the way that our foreign policy, you know, is being developed. We are not Switzerland, unfortunately. I would have loved, you know, if Greece was, you know, a neighborhood in the Swiss neighborhood, let's say, instead of being, you know, in the Middle East. Yeah, great. However, and this is extremely important, we have succeeded the following. Our minister of economy, Kostis Hatzidakis, managed to persuade Brussels not to regard, you know, any form of investment in defense as a source of annual deficit for our economy. So, you know, this is a big relief for our economic efforts to stabilize our economy, you know, and to return back to the core of the European Union as a healthy economy, you know, as a nation that learned from its own mistakes, and we are not ready to repeat them, for the years to come.
Thank you very much. Professor Janković, please.
Thank you. Well, my question is, having in mind what you just now said about the some economic aspects. Now, you said that there is some benefit at not just looking at not seeing the cost, but the cost still remains. We can, let's say, pretend it doesn't exist, but it is there. You mentioned the benefits of opening the door for better cooperation with Saudi Arabia and Israel for Greece. And are there some concrete economic benefits for Greece from it? And another part of the question is, having in mind this crisis with the Suez Canal because of the Houthis you mentioned and the Gaza crisis. And last week I heard that the maritime trade has fallen for 50% Suez Canal. So are there some economic consequences for Greece because of this? And I ask this also personally because every summer we go to Greece. If there are some bad consequences, the prices will go up. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, your question is very interesting. However, Greece is a part of the Western world. I mean, we cannot change that. So even if we were not active, let's say, in the Middle East, still our ships will have had, issues with the Houthis because, we are not pro-Shia, obviously. So, what are the economic advantages of us, establishing a close cooperation with Saudi Arabia? The main economic advantages are not, are coming from energy, let's say, all right, but they are coming from research and development, especially in modern, the so-called green agenda sciences, all right, that specific Greek companies, they are extremely active in this part of the world. We have, some of our construction agencies are having, some good contracts in the reconstruction schemes that the Saudi Crown Prince is putting forward. So, this is extremely good for us. However, the main advantage, at least, this comes from an IR theorist, is the political dimension. When Turkey plays the cards of political Islam in the Balkans, for us, it is extremely important to have an open door with the genuine champion of Sunni Islam in the world, and this is Saudi Arabia. On the other hand, Israel is a liberal, democratic state in the Middle East, is a genuine frontier state, as we call it. So for us, it's extremely important to have close connection, especially nowadays that Israel consider political Islam, as its number one source of existential threat. It's not an anti-Islamic agenda. It's an agenda based on realistic dimension being imposed by the maximalistic and revisionist agenda of other elements that are applying pressure. I'm not going to call it tremendous, but considerable pressure to Greece. So, in order to diffuse this kind of pressure, we have to find other directions for our diplomacy. Sometimes Brussels is not, the best path in order to diffuse this kind of attention. So, we have to look again to our wider region. I don't know if your holidays are going to be much cheaper. I don't believe so.
Or cheaper, more expensive.
They are going to be, they are going to be, more, more expensive, and you have to book, much earlier, right? Because we wait millions once again. You give me a great opportunity here to express a personal view. I do not believe in tourism, believe it or not, Greece has a wonderful source of genuine economic wealth, producing primary wealth through trade shipping. I mean, we are a great power. We are the second power internationally. I strongly believe that we should return towards, trade shipping, merchant shipping. We are people of the sea, so we should remember that. And I don't know if you are familiar with the salaries that our ship owners are giving, even to unskilled sailors. This can change microeconomy today, because this is the important thing: how we are able to change microeconomy in a distant village from Athens, that people they are facing the dire consequences of economic crisis. We should find ways in order to change microeconomy, because macroeconomy is doing very well, but we also need sources of modifying or fortifying, let's say, microeconomy. The sea is a safe route. I'm not going to discuss why this is not happening, but there is always a prospect towards this direction.
Thanks a lot. So we want to do.
The Institute of European Studies. Professor, thank you very much for a very interesting lecture, and I would like to come back to the things you said about the Russian presence in the Mediterranean and Middle East and Chinese presence. So if we view so if we look at things from non-Western, non-NATO perspective, couldn't we argue that actually the Russian presence and Chinese presence and activities are actually stabilizing the Middle East region, considering, for example, Syria or the deal which was made between Saudi Arabia and Iran, meaning that it prevents the radical Islamists to take over the governments and for some new wars to occur and migrant crisis and so on. I understand that from the view of Washington, of course, and NATO, naturally, it's a competition in the, let's say, arguably backyard or something, but from non-Western perspective, it seems that there is a lot of support of the presence of Russia and China and this kind of stabilization that we can argue, the word stabilization, that they bring.
Thank you for your question. Okay, let's differentiate, or let's separate China from Russia. Regarding your question, I will focus on Russia. All right, for us, it was not a great surprise seeing Russia playing, the wild Turkish cards regarding the role of the ecumenical patriarchate, which, for Greeks, we are very sensitive regarding that. Put our sensitivity away. For us, this is a great source of political influence at the international level, because this gives us a great opportunity in communicating with the millions of Christian Orthodox around the world. Okay, and why we were not surprised? Because we are familiar with the so-called Third Rome. All right, the Russian agenda, that tries to undermine and destabilize the role of the ecumenical patriarchate in order for the church in Moscow to take the initiative, both politically and culturally and religiously, obviously, around the world. We cannot allow that. We cannot withstand that. We are not able to accept that. I mean, the ecumenical patriarchate survived the Ottoman period and survives, survived the Kemalist period, survives political Islam nowadays, and so on and so forth. For us, this is major. On the other hand, we were extremely surprised by the fact that Russia opened the door towards the pseudo-state in Cyprus, the occupied zone by the Turkish army. For us, this is a no-go area. For us, this is red zone as well. And we are not seeing Russia playing a stabilizing role in the region. On the contrary, even before the emergence of the Black Swan, the Russian-Ukrainian war, the Gaza war, etc., the Russian role during the Arab Spring, the fact that the Russians decided that now it's the time for us to go back to the Mediterranean Sea and the Eastern Mediterranean in particular, these were destabilizing moves in general for the Greek geostrategic interests. Plus, I'm always saying that, Greece is a part of the Western world. I'm a realist, all right? Actually, I'm a neo-realist. So unfortunately, I'm not seeing the world, as an opportunity of cooperation. I'm seeing the world, as a venue of interest. Do we share common interests with Russia? No. And we also have, conflicting, let's say, elements in our foreign policy agenda with the role of the ecumenical patriarchate to dominate these specific issues. So, despite the fact that we had some good historic connection during the past with the Orlovs, our ambassador knows that very good, and with the battleship in Navarino, things change. Things, go forward, and not a stabilizing factor for us in the region. I can always discuss with people that are seeing the alternative dimension. I'm more than ready and willing to hear the arguments. However, the truth for us is completely different. All right. Clarification. What do you mean by vulnerability? You mean from the operations of, for example, let's say Houthis, because the Sixth Fleet is not being affected by the Houthi. I mean, All right. No. there is no such vulnerability, at least, regarding the Sixth Fleet. The Sixth Fleet, as I said, is, let's say, at the same time, a power of hard power instrument tool. On the other hand, is always there in order to remind to allies in NATO and, in the wider region that, diplomatic discussion, is always better than fighting itself. No, I'm not saying, that the role of the Sixth Fleet has been undermined whatsoever, on the one hand, and on the other hand, Greece, with the Bay of Suda in Crete, plays an extremely important role in the way that the Sixth Fleet, operates, and at the same time an extremely important role in the logistics of the Sixth Fleet in general. So, it's not like that we are trying, Greece and Turkey, to share the love of the Sixth Fleet. The Sixth Fleet is there, and I don't believe, that there is any specific security issue regarding the Sixth Fleet itself, especially now with the Aspides operation in the Red Sea. I believe that this role has been more than fortified in general. In addition, I would like to add to your very interesting question that the Russia-Ukrainian war halted the Russian attempt to technologically advance the Black Sea Fleet, not the nuclear submarines, but the conventional frigates that are extremely important, on the surface, on the sea level surface, for showing off the flag in the Mediterranean ports. Russia is not able to do that for many reasons nowadays. So I don't believe that the role of the Sixth Fleet in the Eastern Mediterranean has been undermined in any way. Yeah, thank you.
So our colleague Vukanovic, who is dealing actually with cybersecurity.
Yeah. I mean,
always, that's the problem with him. So we don't have half an hour at least. So I'm joking.
Actually, as I was hearing the question, it was so much food for thought. At the same time.
We have to reduce you to. I'm joking.
Yeah, very nice. Now, regarding human rights and stuff like that, sorry, I'm not a specialist. As a human being, I always give, great importance to these issues. I cannot give you a scientific analysis. My knowledge finishes, in use post bellum, use at bello, use in bello, and use post bellum. Now, regarding the Crimea, as I have mentioned during the first leg of my analysis, the strategic role, the Russian strategic role, is to isolate Ukraine in a landlocked role away from the Black Sea. Plus, in addition, there is always Sevastopol. Sevastopol is of great importance for Russia in general. So the Black Sea is extremely important for Russia. Is not willing to share it with Ukraine. And the safe corridor from the eastern Ukrainian provinces towards Transnistria is also extremely important. So, this is how I connect the annexation of Crimea with the general Russian policy regarding Ukraine. So, for me, it's purely geostrategic.
Since we've been exploiting you for almost 2 hours, which
pleasure.
People like to ask here, as you could see, and the whole thing today at the Faculty of Security.
I'm more than willing to continue that.
That's
I really
great,
like that.
and we hope, of course, that we may continue in the exchange academic
Yes,
future
yes,
and
yes.
with university and other colleagues and so on. But it's about time, considering the schedule, that we should be ending. And after that, to continue with another, so you could have also some time maybe for some bourbon and lunch before going to the lecture. And thank you really very much for so many things that you have I heard quite a lot of new stuff, really, and very specially emphasized and opened so many things actually, but I cannot stand but asking you at the end, in a way that you presented that Greece, on one hand, is, well, if I could say, a loyal part of the general Western structure, which includes especially connections with USA that had been enhanced with, we didn't mention that, but there was also part of those 10 accords or agreements, was that now Greece is not renewing this accord about the basis every year, but it is once in 5 years, which is kind of really showing willingness to enhance and improve relationship generally with USA. Then again, NATO and so on. But on the other hand, you have stated very clearly that you are trying to open new corridors and in a way to show bilateral capability to project yourself and your interests around, but my question concerning the way you presented this, how should I say, bipolar but multilateralism, which was really fantastic way to show that I would think that even within the Western Bloc, the other countries will behave like Greece is doing. So I cannot stand but ask you about the AUKUS. We remember that first thing that Biden did when he came to power was really to initiate this new, let me say, global network, which is basically consisting of the Commonwealth in a way. So my question is, how do you see a relationship? What is the perspective of AUKUS? It's probably anti-Chinese basically, but maybe it has some other things. And how do you see a relationship between AUKUS or NATO? Is it AUKUS going to be, I don't know, something beside NATO, stating what Trump said, that NATO is obsolete, you remember when he said, and so on, or NATO or AUKUS is be expanded NATO or global NATO, and we would finish with your comments upon that.
Excellent. I mean, this is another lecture, a new lecture.
Yeah, I know, but
you are going to invite me again.
Just like Mr. Vukalovic.
Okay, yeah. I left this part of the world, outside of my analysis. We discussed about the Eastern Mediterranean. Obviously, the AUKUS. The geostrategic development is extremely important. It shows that the United States, is more than willing to play a greater role, much more, let's say, to interact more closely with these specific parts of the world. Plus, Britain is taking advantage of the Commonwealth car in order to be there. And, you know, Australia is coming on the forefront. Mainly is a naval kind of competition. I don't know if I should call it antagonism. The main issue here is the following. I believe that everything is going to be defined in more emphatic way than usually does, you know, through the election in through the results in American elections. Okay, so you know, if Biden is going to continue to be in the White House, then things are going to evolve, you know, in this part of the world, in the oceanic you know, oceanic American agenda, let's say. If Trump is going to re-emerge, then no one knows what will happen. Trump, you know, holds, you know, these cards of surprise, let's say, all right. However, I don't believe that, first of all, that this is going to be a walk in the park for Trump. Biden, you know, is, and in general, you know, the Democrats, you know, are not an easy opponent for neo-Republicans on the one hand. And on the other hand, I believe that one of the main sources of success for the United States of America is that there are, let's say, autonomous layers of state administration formulating, you know, a stable foreign policy, and at the same time, you know, promoting a stable military agenda that is not being affected by, you know, personal political choices and likings and so on and so forth. This is something that Greece, I don't know about Serbia, you can tell me, we should adopt as well, because, you know, as JFK has said, all right, domestic politics, you know, can harm us, mistakes, but mistakes in foreign policy can kill us. So, you know, we cannot play with these things.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.